JT Westersill of Locked On Utes. NIL. From Alan Bowman to Jalen Daniels to Cam Rising. These dudes are getting paid. If we go back to what Matt Rule said last offseason, that quarterbacks could go from $1 to $2 million. This is a Power 4 league. These are quarterbacks that most average football fans in the country would know their name. But yeah, that guy's been around for a bit. Are we promoting playing these athletes due to NIL collectives, the pomp and circumstance or money that's coming directly from that side of college football, instead of benching them for a better opportunity to win? Are we seeing these guys play just because there's a dollar sign now tabbed to their name?
I'm going to say no, but I wish I could say absolutely not, but I can't. Still going to say no. But we don't know behind the scene what's going on. That could absolutely be a reason that Cam Rising was in the game. I can't sit here and rule that out. I can't sit here and say that's why it happened. But like we already talked about, when we're just like going, what makes sense? It doesn't make sense that when you've been so cautious with Cam Rising's health, that all of a sudden you decide, oh, even though he's hurt, we're going to leave him. It's weird. Like, is there something going on behind the scenes? It's purely speculation, but is there something going on behind the scenes where you have people who have paid NIL to this university, maybe even for Cam Rising, and it's like, well, we paid him to play, he better play, or else we're not going to compensate you in the future. Like, that is something that could be going on. I'm not saying it is. Once again, I want to be very clear on that. But to say there's no way that's the case, we can't say that, because that's the world of college football we live in. And I do believe, at the very least, because of the financial investments you make in these players, the leash is at least a little bit longer, because it's hard to justify and go back to the person who's compensating you for those players and say like, oh, we just didn't feel like you gave him the best chance to win. Well, you better be sure without a shadow of a doubt, because you might not get that compensation in the future. So I'm still going to say no, because we are going to see like quarterback changes and things. You still got to win games. And so what's best for your program. But I got to believe NIL plays somewhat in a role in the decisions with these players if they are underperforming, because I just believe their leash and the amount of mistakes they can make get a little longer if you bench him, then it's like, well, what are we spending all this money for? It's a poor allocation of our resources.
So it may not apply as much with Cam Rising. I do believe his injury history is more of a factor than NIL that we should be addressing when it comes to his case. For Alan Bowman, for Jalen Daniels, there are quarterbacks across this league that are putting their entire program in a worse spot based on the way they played. And while the Ballard kid at Kansas, Garrett Rangel at Oklahoma State have gotten on the football field before, have been starters before, have been that caliber before, we're seeing them left on the bench because, well, we kind of have to play that guy. We're paying him $1.5 million. Or, well, our biggest donor is doling out $750,000 this year just to pay that guy. In this era of NIL, you have donors that are directly handing money to these kids. It's not look, can you make a Facebook post saying happy birthday to my kids? Here's $800,000. That's the way that it goes now. Are we in an era, and you asked me this a couple weeks ago when we did a crossover about the future of college football. In general, sans Cam Rising even, are we in an era where donors, fans, based on NIL, can control the program now more than ever?
Well, definitely. I mean, that's without a doubt, because of the way NIL structure and everything works. I do believe there is a larger influence because, and once again, we're not saying this is what happens behind the scenes, but I find it hard not to believe that there are donors out there. I'm sorry to kick a team while it's down, but let's say Florida, that are like, oh yeah, if you keep Billy Napier, I'm going to give more money to your program. No, I think it's absolutely, if you fire Billy Napier, I'm going to support the direction you're moving in, because it's a new direction and it's more than likely a more positive one, at least what I feel that it would be. So I do believe they have a saying in what happens now more than ever, because they can make your football program better.
Kind of crazy. I think that's always been a thing. I remember, as a kid growing up, it was like, oh, should Arkansas fire its coach, right? Because the donors, Walmart or Tyson, they want him fired. And those donors were certainly in those conversations with the athletic director or the board of trustees or whoever. But today, instead of, I'll withdraw my donation to the school, it's, hey, don't bench that kid. I'm paying him $500,000. Don't bench that kid. The university collective has come together and decided to weight the money this way and give your quarterback even more cash. And at that point, like, JT, how can you have a $1.5 million quarterback on the bench for a $30,000 kid? That $30,000 kid might put you in a better spot to win, but now you're wasting $1.5 million, which is a lot for Big 12 programs, on a guy who's being benched. That's where I'm not okay with where NIL is right now.
It's no longer become just football decisions. It's now business decisions because it can't affect you long term. Like we discussed, if you're the donor who's paying that much money for the quarterback to now sit on the bench, that's now a poor investment. Are you going to make what could potentially be another poor investment the following year? That's where if you're the coach, it might be like, well, maybe we can still win with him, and then we don't risk losing out on that NIL money. That's something that could absolutely be in play. I do want to refocus it back to the three quarterbacks we brought up. As is the case with Cam Rising, I do believe that was more than anything just the fact that we've seen Isaac Wilson turn the ball over. Kyle Whittingham trusts Cam Rising more than Isaac. I got to believe that's why he put him in. The Alan Bowman thing, they did bench Alan Bowman against Utah. We saw that, and now obviously everything that's going on with Alan Bowman there. So that's something they have started to make a resolution towards. But then you look at Kansas. Kansas is the one I'll say I still have a hard time believing there is a quarterback better than Jalon Daniels in terms of giving them a chance to win. You look at what he did against Arizona State, right? 260 yards, still 2 touchdowns in that game.
His fault they lost that one, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not his fault they lost that game. So in this situation, I don't believe that is what's happening, but we cannot rule that out, which years ago we absolutely could. But in the NIL era, never say never when it comes to the impact that these donors and just the financial ramifications that change the way that college football is being played today.
It's great. We have franchise quarterbacks. That's what this is.
We do.
You know, I mean, in the NFL, when it's a $300 million man and you say, well, we got to play him. That's the GM's decision. It's the coach's decision. They're in those contract negotiations. Today, it wasn't the head football coach that decided to pay that quarterback $1 million. It was the collective. It was the maybe the athletic director has some hand in it, but it could just be you or me giving that kid this massive check. And the coach looking at the kid and going, well, shoot. Now, and this is, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing Nick Saban is somewhere nodding along with all of this, going, yes, this is exactly why I'm not coaching college football anymore.
Even though he used to also pay players?
Yeah, but it was cool back then.
I know.
It was cool too as a league. They got to like have fun, like McDonald's bags and whatnot. Man, I feel like we're going in a dangerous place with college football because of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I know that, and you did a really good job of kind of evening the conversation out a bit on, we can't guarantee that this is a conversation that athletic departments are having. But if you put 2 and 2 together, it's a big part of what college football has become. JT, how can folks find more of your work?
Go over to Locked On Utes. You guys can pile on. Those of you Big 12 fans that kept some of those receipts from the offseason, I'm still be here. I'm not running. So you guys can come at it at JT Wistersall on social feeds as well. And Drake, it should be quite the Big 12 crossover this week for JT. So if people were waiting on that, they could check me out there as well. But always fun joining you, my friend.
Yeah, Thursday night squad show. I'm on a cruise ship as of today's Tuesday. I'm on a cruise ship today. So if I don't make it, make sure the fireworks are there nonetheless. That's JT Wistersall, Locked On Utes. This has been, it always will be. Come back tomorrow for more football Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Utes and Dose Grande.